Dynasty Warriors 9 released this month, making some changes to the established formula, resulting in a response that's oh boy. Dynasty Warriors 9 shifts away from the stage structure of previous entries, favouring a more open-world formula. A formula that doesn't seem to translate well to this series, because despite the open world, combat encounters are still delegated to specific areas serving the same purpose as a level-by-level design, but now requiring you to travel between them in a world that has very little to offer, making the open-world nature of the gameplay completely redundant. And then there are the bugs. There's been a really divisive response from die-hard fans of this series, with some even defending the game with such sound logic as, I think that the reviews of Dynasty Warriors 9 are mostly negative because people are jealous of the staff that work at Koei and in the gaming industry in general and have hot anime-like characters designed and programming them, etc. They feel like they are left outside of this and they throw their rage at the review while trying to convince themselves that the game is bad. For example, even seeing that screenshots of Zinzai and Ying, her legs will make the people who don't work in the gaming industry jealous and desperate. Oh. See, now the negative reviews make sense. Dynasty Warriors has a very niche audience, and previous entries in the series have had a fairly similar response when trying different approaches. Changes to established formulas are always welcome to ensure that franchises don't become stagnant, but not when those changes work against the core of the strength of the games. It'll be interesting to see what direction Koei Tecmo takes with the next entry. I mentioned in the previous video that there was one release this month in particular that I was looking forward to, so the bulk of the episode will be on this. And I said in the previous video that as trite and pretentious as it might sound, Shadow of the Colossus changed my life. Now, to give that some context, I've been playing games for most of my life, but only as a side hobby. I was really picky with my choice of games and stuck to a specific few. I've always loved anything giant monsters, so when I saw the cover for Shadow of the Colossus when I was 13, it was an instant buy. I can't quite remember my immediate impression of the game, but I do remember seeing the first Colossus and being awestruck. This took me by surprise because my initial attitude to this game was, cool, 16 huge monsters to fight. But this wasn't a monster. It didn't attack me, it was docile and majestic. Suddenly, I was hesitant to actually initiate a fight, which was a really strange experience. But when I actually killed the Colossus, when I pressed square to plunge the sword into its head and watched the enormous body go limp and collapse to the ground, I felt so guilty having entered this land and slain this creature for my own selfish reasons. And that was the moment games stopped being mere playthings and took on meaning. Shadow is kind of difficult to recommend because of its design. How do you convince someone that exploring an empty world to kill 16 bosses is compelling without them seeing it and potentially ruining some of that experience? And that issue seems to be there in the marketing of the game too. In one of the trailers, the text reads something like, "Explore an open world," which is really misleading as to what Shadow of the Colossus is. The quote-unquote open world is vast and expansive and open, but it's barren, lifeless, quiet, seemingly forgotten, with nothing to do outside of just killing the Colossi. That isn't a criticism though, it all serves as unspoken storytelling, and I just hate the idea of someone picking up this game with the idea that they'll have an open world sandbox to mess around in. The world is dead by design. If you missed Shadow of the Colossus all those years ago, then do yourself a favour and pick up the remake. If you have exhausted your original PS2 copy or PS3 re-release, then pick up the remake. Regardless of how familiar or uninterested you might be, I guarantee it will change your mind. Shadow of the Colossus is a game that everybody should experience at least once.